The Irish Times had a piece a couple of weeks ago, and in this piece it said, Ireland's tax system is assisting the growing practice of bogus self-employment, according to a new report by Task, the independent social change think tank. I'm here to blow the whistle on bogus self-employment. I am a whistleblower. Employment comes in two flavours. You can be contract of employment, which is an employee, or you can be contract for employment, which is self-employed. Employment status is never a matter of personal choice and is always dictated by the specific facts. Each case is assessed on its own merit in accordance with the general precedents of Irish law. There is no basis for categorizations purely by occupation. Operations which seem to be the same may differ in the actual terms and conditions in any given case. Who decides? Well, the EAT used to be able to decide in conjunction with another case, but now you have to go through the WRC to get to the EAT. The Revenue Commissioners decide. Not sure who else decides, but social welfare also decide. Now, the ultimate arbiter in all of this are the courts. They hand down the precedents. Self-employment was described by Bob Dowdall, the Chief Inspector of Taxes, or bogus self-employment was described as, it is difficult to define an elephant. Well, but you know one when you see it. Disguise it, it is still an elephant. Misclassification is often the result of cost-cutting measures instituted by employers at the expense of their employees. Misclassified employees lose workplace protections, including the right to join a union, face an increased tax burden, receive no overtime pay, and may have no recourse for workplace injury violations and disability-related disputes. Misclassification also causes governments to suffer substantial revenue losses as employers circumvent their obligations. Now, are there penalties to this? Yes, there are penalties. Employers who do not obey the law can be fined up to $13,000 or be imprisoned for up to 3 years, or both. The penalties are serious. A decision is made based on indicators. There may be indicators in common with employment and self-employment. So it's basically a checklist. Go down through it, which one gets the most indicators. This is the code of practice for determining employment or self-employment. Now, everybody is using this, everybody, except for one section within the Department of Social Welfare. This is the blueprint that everybody is making their decisions off. Now, as you can see, there's some great looking people there on the back. There's Revenue, the Small Firms Association, IBEC, Congress, Social Welfare. In fact, it gives us a list of them here. Department of Enterprise, Trade and Innovation, National Employment Rights Authority, Department of Social Protection, Department of Finance, Irish Congress of Trade Unions, Irish Business and Employers Federation, Small Firms Association, and the Construction Industry Federation, and Revenue Commissioners. So this is what everybody's working on. Now, the one place that's not working off this is Scope. Scope is a department within the social welfare. It's an office. 8 people. All they ever do is make insurability of employment decisions. These people are the experts, but nobody knows about them. Nobody knows. Even within social welfare, very few know they exist. What these people use to make decisions is the Bible. What they take are the general precedents of Irish law. Each case has to be assessed on its own merit. Operations which seem to be the same may differ in the actual terms and conditions in any given case. And finally, job title does not define employment status. Deciding officers in the scope section deal with the difficult end of insurability of employment decisions. This is a reply from Joan Burton where she described the type of things that they deal with. These decisions mainly involve company directors, partnerships, public sector employees, and family employments. And they are the difficult decisions. Decisions on insurability of employment between an employer and an employee, or worker and employee, they're the easy end of the decisions. The key to unlocking the general precedents of Irish law is a form called the INS1 form. It is the insurability of employment form. It was praised in the Supreme Court by Justice King for its clarity. It cuts through the bullshit. Now, the INS form needs to be filled in by both an employer and the employee. It looks only at the reality of the situation, and it ignores the script. Now, the script is what all bogus self-employers are using. It's the language, and it's not only the language, it's the instruction. It's the way they argue these cases. The gig economy is rife with this. It is rife. Joel Hills, the business editor in ITN, has done a massive series of investigations into the Deliveroo. He has gone undercover and he has exposed the script. And this is the same script I have heard at least 4 times in insurability of employment decisions. An example of where things may get difficult. The General Medical Services contract automatically assigns self-employment to all GPs. Now, the latest promises from government say that everybody will be able to get free GP care. And that changes the situation for GPs. GPs do a mix of work. They do private patients. They do public patients at a rate decided by the state. Now, they can be both employed and self-employed at the same time, but the state is saying no, the General Medical Service contract makes you self-employed. Now, consultants have a deal where they can be both employed and self-employed. No, they do nothing any differently to what doctors do. They see public patients at a rate set by the state, and then they see their private patients. So this is the sort of decision that scope should be looking at. Now we get on to the biggest one, and it's the ERCT system, the relative contract tax system. It's a virus and it's spreading. Michael Noonan confirmed that there are 99,741 people on the ERCT system. 99,000. That's an Doyle question. This is neither an opt-in nor an opt-out scheme for the worker. The worker doesn't get a say in this. The worker is automatically assigned self-employment status by the click of a mouse by the employer. In the original Task article in the Irish Times, Task points to the construction industry as an example where the proportion of self-employed has grown from 25% in 2006 to 38% in 2015. It's actually up on 50% now. Generally, it says flexibility is being forced on more and more workers, and that is the case. There is no choice for workers in this. The Irish tax system seems to facilitate bogus self-employment by allowing employers to designate the recipients of contract as self-employed and without consultation. Such self-employed people were in fact like any other employee. They are working under someone else's direction, and they don't have their own equipment and don't supply materials. They certainly don't employ anybody. However, thanks to the revenue's relevant contract tax, they magically become their own bosses. Revenue's online system allows employers to become principal contractors, employees to become subcontractors, literally at the click of a mouse. It's sitting there in front of the principal contractor. Click A, employee, it's going to cost you 30% more. Click B, self-employed, you make a saving of 30% on labour's cost. No active consent from the subcontractor is even necessary. It meant revenue regulations to prevent workers from being wrongly deemed as self-employed were now a formulaic declaration. Now that's all from the Irish Times piece. And finally in the Irish Times piece it says, acceptance of self-employment status is now often a condition of employment. And that's huge. There are numerous ads in the situations vacant sectors in newspapers in Ireland saying you will be employed as self-employed. Are there other taxation at source schemes? Yes, there are. Beside GMS, ERCT, there's one for the entire courier industry, which every courier in the industry is self-employed. There are hairdressers who are told they are self-employed even though they are working in hair studios. This is rife. Revenue know about this. In the private sector, it's everywhere. In finance, in business, payroll companies are used, and payroll companies are actually saying advantages of using our payroll company. No PRSI to pay, 10.75% of total pay. No holiday pay, 8%. No pension to pay, 10 to 12%. No bank holidays, no sick leave, no